Okay, good morning. Another coaching session. Welcome to Red Bull in the Morning with Will Cooper. We're going to inject ourselves with some energy and some passion for what we do. Thanks for sharing the communication piece, Joe, on the chat. Today is about overcoming an objection that sounds something like this. With the market being so hot and houses selling so fast, why in the world would you pay all those commissions? Why don't you just find somebody to put it on the MLS and save yourself a ton of money? How many are hearing any version of that? Something like that? Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's tackle it. Now, a lot of times you've heard me say I'm going to get a running start at something, and I kind of start from the basics and I move up. I'm going to jump right in how to handle this. So grab some notes, guys, and let's start off with some tips. And then I want to hear from you on what has worked well for you. So let's start off, and I want you to kind of write on your blank paper there. Let's write, kind of down a column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 little quick steps to this objection. Okay. Okay. So they said, well, they're selling so fast. I mean, my brother sold over the weekend. I had a friend at work who sold in 5 days. My goodness, my parents sold really fast and their house was $1 million. We've heard all kinds of different things coming at us like this. So step number 1, it takes discipline, but the step number 1 is to listen intently and don't jump in and don't cut them off and let them speak. So this is, we nod in approval. We are making eye contact. We're focused on them and we listen closely to what they have to say. Now that one may seem obvious, but you know how many times we get excited to answer an objection and we want to jump right in, or we want to cut them off, go, yeah. We've heard that. Yeah, we hear that all the time. And we kind of cut them off. The effect of that could be they start to feel like we don't care. We're not seeing the world from their point of view. So let's go to the next one, and these kind of blend together. The next one is to restate back what their concern is. And so we acknowledge and say, so what you're saying is that it's really important for you to make sure that you net the most out of this transaction. The next one is kind of like restate, but it's a question. So we start asking some questions to make sure that we understand. So the first 3 kind of blend together: listen, restate, and question. And the question in number 3 could be something like, do I understand? In that nature, like, do I have clarity coming from? So I could ask a number of different things on that. I could say something like, you seemed really worried about, amount and the numbers, right? You seem really worried about that. Could you tell me more? Have you already done some calculations? See, that's a question. Are you worried about it? Have you done any calculations? Well, what are they, right? So let's take our hypothetical here, and let's say our seller we'll even make it a seller/buyer client, okay? Because nobody's selling unless they have a place to go. So we're going to say, I talked to the lender, and in order for me to put 20% down and avoid the MIP, I've got to net more, right? We all heard that? Or some version of it? I mean, I need to net more. I got to put more down. My next home purchase is expensive. So I need more. And they've given some, more, tangible things that they're thinking of. Like, I need the down payment, or maybe I have to clear some debt. There's something to it. At this moment, guys, it's really important that you start making notes about where they are. Have you done the numbers? What are the numbers? How many times have you felt a little uncomfortable and you just said, well, I'm going to blow by that. Maybe it's confidential. Maybe it's not. In our role, you know, in our role, we got to know what the numbers are. Okay, so have you run the numbers? Yes, I have. What are they? Well, I've done that. See, what if we discover in that moment that their calculations are not entirely accurate, right? So we start showing our value about how we can solve some of these things. So number 1, 2, 3. So we've got listen, restate, and question. Number 4, this is my personal favorite. You won't find it on Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, the Big Ferry, the Small Ferry, the Disney Ferry. You won't find it anywhere there. It's my favorite one. And it goes like this. You advance the position. So what I mean by that is we take that ball for wherever they are. You know, it's football season. So I'll just say, well, it's kind of a football season. I only know of one team that's playing, but okay. They've got someone else to play, but you know. Anyway, if they took that ball to the 20-yard line, you take it to the end zone. You know what I'm saying? You'd never minimize it. See, that's going backwards. So we advance the position. So it sounds something like this. I might say something like, you know what, Debbie, so let's say I've listened, I've restated it, I've said it back, and yes, we've had this conversation. I've asked more, what were the numbers? What are the numbers? I've written that down. And then I advance the position by saying something like, you know what, I couldn't agree more. Think statements like that. As a matter of fact, and then you put in what they've missed. Right? So that's advancing the ball. The opposite of this is to go backwards and to say, well, you know what? Don't worry about that. It all works out in the end. And they just sit there and say, you know, Will doesn't get me. Okay. So now we're using this whole objection that has to do with commission dollars, but objections show up in a lot of different flavors. And the concepts still work. We listen, we restate, we question for clarity, and then we advance the position, okay? Now, when we go to the next phase, and we're transitioning away from, I see your world, and I even see it more clear because you forgot this, this, and this, right? So this is number 5. Number 5 is we want what they want. So we want exactly what they want. So remember that we're on the same team here. You know, it's not us convincing them to pay us a commission and that hurts their bottom line. We know that paying the commission is the best way to net the most, right? To net the most. That's what this is all about. Okay, now I want to pause right there because this is Berkshire Hathaway and we don't just do this, we raise the bar, okay? So let me show you how I might dig deeper into making some of these analytical and bring the professional standard up when we're talking about this concept of, is it better to pay commissions in order to net more, okay? And if I jettison commissions because the market is hot, will that rise and lift my bottom line? That's what we are testing. Okay, that's what we have to be able to speak with some intelligence on. And we can't just say our opinion. It sometimes seems self-serving. Well, of course, you're going to say that you're a realtor. You know, of course, you're going to say that you're with Berkshire Hathaway. It's got to be more than that. You guys agree? Okay. Am I talking too quickly? Too fastly? I'm talking too fastly. Well, I'm very, very, very excited today, I have to admit. Okay, I'll bring it down. Okay, sorry, I'm not going to share my screen forever, so bear with me. I don't want to overshare the screen, but I want to get a running start at how I might look at the dollars of a real estate transaction and what the seller contributes. Okay, write that down. What does a seller contribute to a real estate transaction? What does a seller contribute? Okay, because we're talking about not contributing to some of the commission here. That's what we're putting that out on the table to debate it, or we're going to put it in the lab and see if it can hold water. Okay. So with the seller contributes more, does that raise bottom line? If they contribute less, does it raise bottom line? That's what we're going to test. Are you guys intrigued with what I'm going to show you? Where's the secret in the box here? Yeah, Joe's very intrigued.
I'm so intrigued at this point.
Okay. All right. What does the seller contribute? Sorry, guys. Let's get the share going here. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Well, how about, I love to take the real estate purchase contract with me to every listing appointment. So let's just talk dollars. Guys, where would I go in the real estate purchase contract to show what a seller is going to contribute to the sale? Give me type in your chat since we have everybody muted. What kind of concessions and things does a seller pay for on behalf of a buyer? Where might we go and point to that and get a running start at this concept of what we pay for from an idea from a seller to a buyer? What do you think? Okay, so closing costs, John, I like that one. The included items, not so much, but closing costs, yes. 1.2. Jeff, I'm looking for more like dollars. That stuff is fairly tangible. So, okay, warranty, I like that because it hasn't been paid for yet. And that's a concession. Natalie, it's a good answer, but the seller financing, we'll keep that one on the table. That could come up later. You're kind of missing the top answer, guys. The top answer, there it is. Craig Lelis, of course. Woohoo! Craig, putting it down. If only Mike Conley could have hit that open three like Craig just hit that, right? If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, every Jazz fan's heart was broken when Mike Conley missed the game-winning shot last night to send the Jazz home and advance the Nuggets, who really weren't the better team. Anyway, this is not about basketball. This is about real estate. Okay, let's go to the number one answer, and that would be found in section 6, where we talk about title insurance and what the seller agrees. So see, start right here, 6.2. So I might transition like this and say, I'll tell you what, why don't we walk through all the things that a seller compensates a buyer for, okay? And I'm just going to run up to it. Okay, thanks for the feedback, Natalie and Travis. Thanks for laughing. Brian, you're right on. Here it is. But seller agrees to, what is that word? Pay, right? Seller agrees to pay. Okay, so because they're going to pay for title insurance, and we might grab at this point, we'd go in our forms manual. Let me stop sharing for just a sec. So we go in our forms manual, and we would turn back to the section that says closing documents, if we have it on hand. If we're doing it by Zoom, then we pull up one that we have saved, and we would say, this is a list of the things that a seller pays for, and I would point right to the lines. Now, trust me on this, guys, because what they really are trying to figure out is if you're worth 6%, if what you do raises their bottom line. So if we kind of go, if we talk in metaphors or cliches, or we make it too general and not get specific, they have no idea how complicated and hard it is, okay? So we're going to point to the things that are provided as far as the dollar amount is concerned, okay? Now, that's just the start. That's just the start. How about we look at this? So I'm giving you, look, tip number 1 here is to look at the cost in the rep sheet and reference a closing disclosure, because we're after the bottom line, right? We're after that number right at the bottom, right? That's what we're after. And we recognize that that's what we're after, and we show them how all these numbers equate to that, right? And it starts with the sales price. Interesting. It starts with the sales price. So we're gonna We're going to march through that. Okay, here's the other tip. All right, screen share. Okay, so we went through the REPC. All right, how about this? Why don't we do a quick search? Okay, and I just pulled this up really quick. It's active comparables. So let's just say this is our competition, single family. I just happened to pull Salt Lake County, and I pulled property that's right around the old mill office. Okay, view results. Let's let this pull up. I'm looking for something here. Do you guys know what I'm looking for? What do you think I'm looking for before I pull it up? What do you think I'm going to point to? Anyone? Put it on the chat. What do you think I'm going to point to? Remember what we're asking. We're asking this is about the dollar amount and the things the seller pays on behalf of, right? On behalf of a buyer. Natalie already has the second best answer. Way to go. There it is. Thanks for playing, Natalie. It is the second best answer. We're looking at two things. Okay. Now, actually, I've got to edit something I just said, okay? Let's write this down. I'm doing the same thing. Let's not forget the sales price, okay? The sales price. So number one is sales price, and we're going to show what our competition is, and we're like, this is what they're listed for, right? Notice that we've got the original list here. This particular property is already reduced $20,000. We may even mention to them, since we're on it, this is our days on market that every buyer is aware of. When this turns into a sold, we know that we'll get concessions there. And we could pull up a sold comp and show the concessions. So sales price and concessions. But what I'm really wanting to show is down here. I'm showing this amount right there. So let's just quit. We've got 17 properties pulled up. I have no idea what I'm about to see. How many of these do you think out of 17? Matter of fact, I don't even know the answer, guys. Put it in your chat. How many of the 17 are going to have a 3% BAC? Put a number in there. The most would be 17. We already know there's at least one. Why don't you give me what you think are going to have the 17, the 3% BAC? And then we'll all look and learn together. Looks like most of you are saying kind of most. Guys, I don't know the answer. And I would do this live with the client, okay? And by the way, I'm saving the best for last. This is just a warm-up, okay? This is just a warm-up. Okay, is everybody weighed in? Tara, Natalie, Sharon, Tyson, Bob, Todd. Okay. Amanda. Okay, here we go. Let's count them up. There's one. Uh-oh. Okay, so there's one, and then we have one that's not. That's a 2.5. There's another one. Who's counting with me? So 2, 3, still 3. A 2.9. Seriously? Gina's shaking her head. I agree with you. I guess I'll say that doesn't count. So we're still at 3. 3. There's 4, 5. Berkshire Hathaway, by the way. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 still, 11, 12, 13 out of 17. Who had it? I'm going through the chat. Brian Klinger guessed 13. 13 out of 17. Okay, now, when we talk about valuing a property, one thing we look at is what its competition is, and we look at what's included. And here is the next tip. Right here. What am I looking at? What is that? That's an appraisal, right? Subject property is on the left. Comp 1, 2, and 3. This is the general breakdown of what the property is, kind of its statistics. And then you start getting adjustments. Now, what you and I know that doesn't show up on the appraisal is that if we want, okay, so we had 13 out of 17 properties that offered a concession of 3%, right? So the vast majority. The seller would like to compare to the best comparables, 1, 2, 3. If I've done my homework, I can pull up the offering on that sold comp and see what am I looking for? I'm looking, sorry, you guys are on my other screen here. Like, where's Will looking? Okay, no, hi. What am I looking for? Sorry, the comedy, guys, is an added bonus. I know you didn't pay for that, but you know, it just comes with the program. So you're just gonna have to bear with the comedy. I'm looking for the 3%, right? And I point to that as a concession, very similar to how we make these adjustments that come up on an appraisal. Because the buyer, let me stop sharing. All right, so the buyer is going to pay a sales price and get the following. And they shop just like all of us shop. And so what do I get, you know, for my sales price? Okay. We still have two more. We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We still have one more tip, right? Or one more, because you wrote 1 through 6, correct? Is that not if you're, yeah? So it's just one more we're missing. Okay, so the sales way to say that might be close, but this is where I usually ask something like, how does that feel to you? The reason I like that, it's my style, is because I'm all about the relationship. So how does that feel? It could be phrased like, do you understand, and how does that feel? You know, I'm looking that they get what I've put out there as far as the information is concerned. The how does that feel to you, to me, it is the summation of everything. So it's got logic, but it also has emotion. You know, it's totality. So when you say, how do you feel about it? And then just listen, you'll get a better conversation. Okay. Notice that pattern is kind of like the advanced, what I call the advanced pattern here. But it has a little bit more oomph behind it on how we might look at numbers. Okay. And it gives you a chance to make a tour through rep C, closing disclosure, and point to the numbers. You know, like if somebody's worried about something, you don't walk around the thing they're worried about. What do? You jump right into that and get to work on the thing they're worried about. Does that make sense, you guys? Makes sense. That's kind of what this style is about. Now, it's missing, maybe it's missing an emphasis of a really good technique that, depending on your personality that you're speaking with, so maybe we should write that down. Be ready to pivot for personality. So personality pivots are preferred. PPP. Personality pivots are preferred, because some people are bottom line people. Some people are, love the data. And so we spend a lot of time on data. Other people are really after, how it feels. And so there's different styles, right? So I know you know that. But if you've got the bottom line kind of a guy, or it just wants the instant, instead of me telling you, why don't you use the chat and tell me what you would say? So here is the question. When they said, why don't we just save the money and find someone to put on the MLS? What question could you immediately ask them right after hearing that? Just a question, not a statement. Just a question. Think about that for a minute. I'm going to give you some time on this one. What question would you ask right after they said, why don't we just put on the MLS and save the commission? I mean, houses are selling so quickly. If you save the commission, then you could, then you're going to make more on your sale. Then you're going to have more for your 20% down. Okay, so already, thanks for playing. Todd says, what is your goal in doing so? And they say, well, you know, I want to raise my bottom line. Julie says, what will you do if you have multiple offers? Okay, Julie, let me caution you a little bit there on that style of a question. It can get you in trouble. You'll need to put some more heart into that one and phrase it more like, in the market like this, yes, it is fast. It is fast paced. What we find the most challenging thing is dealing with so many interested people and really picking the best buyer. So what would be more important to you? The bottom line or a stronger offer that would guarantee to close and meet your closing deadline on your purchase? Something like that might be a little better than that style. But I like where you're going, because we know we're going to we're going to run into multiple offers. Matter of fact, to Julie's point, let's not skip around that. Let's talk about how we do net the best bottom line by dealing with multiple offers. And the way, using this style, what would you pull out? Well, you'd pull out the multiple offer disclosure form, right? And teach and train them on that, right? You might talk about a backup offer. You might point through the rep sheet at key points that have nothing to do with price, but have all to do with the strength of the buyer. So I like that. Leslie says, how do we plan to market? How do you plan to market? How do you plan to show your home? Okay. Write this down, guys, and I thank you so much for participating, because if you don't participate, I can't get these things out of my head, okay? So, Leslie, thank you so much. But write this down. Don't play tennis. Write that down. Don't play tennis. So, what are we going to play then? Well, tennis is they say something and then you counter back. And the problem with this is this ends up being argumentative, doesn't it? Like they have a point and then you make the counterpoint and they make another point. And pretty soon you find yourself that all they want to do is prove they're right. And that's, you know, these are people skills and communication skills. And so what I've learned is I think of myself being shoulder to shoulder with that person. Okay, I'm not going to be back and forth like this. They say something, I say something. I get next to them. I look at the world like they see it. I advance their position. I said, not only that, but it's really expensive to pay MIP over years. I mean, if you added that up, that's almost the hot tub that you wanted. See, that is advancing it. We never minimize it and we don't get argumentative. So let's not play tennis. Okay. So I asked what kind of sport, and you guys said basketball. Great, because we're on the same team, we're looking at the same hoop, and we're going in the same direction. Okay. Football would also probably fall into that. Okay. Let me go and get a few.
Will, can I chime in on this a little bit?
Yeah, please, Joe.
So the most logical buyer in the world is going to ask you to prove what Will's saying here mathematically or logistically or using forms that the decision that they're going to make is the right one. And what I think, Will, what you're sharing here is you don't want to get into a battle where you're trying to prove that your point of view is superior to their point of view.
Correct.
But what we're looking at here is listen to the core concern, right? The concern is, why should I pay commission when all you have to do is stick a sign in front of your house right now, right? There's what the concern underneath that statement is very simple. I don't want to pay for something that doesn't give me any value. That is what this question is about. The question is, I don't want to pay for something that gives me nothing in return. And so in order to advance the ball, as Will's saying, you have to address the fact that there's not a logical answer to an emotional concern, right? You can help them with statistics and with logic change their emotional state, but you can't solve an emotional issue with data, right? So addressing the fact that they're not getting anything of value, and what Will is doing a beautiful job of explaining here is, you can't immediately charge in with statistics and numbers and solve that concern, right? The concern is very straightforward. I don't want to pay for something that doesn't give me anything in return. And if I were in the middle of that transaction, I would probably bring that up. I wouldn't want you to pay for something that doesn't give you anything in return. So instead of moving past that, then you get to sit down and say, let's explain, or let's go through what it is that I can do to help you net the most in this situation, right? You're essentially moving past that emotional blockage, and then you're using your data and your statistics to not only show them that there is tremendous value in going with an agent at this time in the market, but that you're going to not only pay for yourself, but you're going to net them an increase. Then, so they're actually getting into a better financial position with you than without you.
I want to hear from more of you, but let me dovetail into this. Because I was just thinking that I think it's near impossible for you to be sincere and authentic at the same time if our hearts are not centered on what's best for the relationship, you know? And so it's tough. And, you know, I've learned through the years that when an agent is desperate for a sale for personal reasons, and it does happen, let's not kid ourselves, it happens. We've got agents who need to pay bills, and they're just like everybody else. When they walk into a situation and they're thinking of themselves first, it comes out in ways. It comes out in tonality. It comes out in body language. And maybe, you know, we talk too quickly. Maybe we want to talk about stats because we know stats, but the person we're talking to isn't resonating with the stats. And you know, people are worried about the money they're spending. And so we've got to have heart in this. And what I would do to, one of my mentors said, look, you guys, I guess it's no surprise, guys, I would consider myself to be a spiritual person. You know, I guess all I'm trying to say there is that I'm really not very good on my own, and I need help, and I want help, and I want to be a good person. So when I'm getting ready to meet with somebody, I clear my mind, and it's all about them. You know, we can call this a number of different things, but if I'm in the car getting ready to walk in, then I'm clearing my head saying, what can I do? And this is my style, but I say, what can I do to advance the relationship? Because I can't control if they list their house. Those are huge decisions. Selling and listing a house and moving on is a massive decision. And you and I are way down the list. As critical as we are, we're not anything close to the combination of the issues that are above us. So we go with the humility and sincerity, and now it can be authentic. So when this question was posed to me, I could answer a number of different ways because I can read them and I care about them. I have the pattern memorized, but I'd never go in saying, well, step number 1 is this, step number 2 is this. I'm open to how I'm going to pull some of those components out. That gives me flexibility to speak to different kinds of personalities. Because if they're highly emotional, to Joe's point, the stats are not going to do very well, other than show them the complexity of the deal, which they probably don't realize, okay? We are our own worst enemy when we make this too simple.
And Will, your core message still is so critical here in any sales situation, right? If you truly have their best interests at heart, right? Then it can't be a tennis match. Then you can't try to win, right? Because you're trying to help them legitimately get to the best possible situation for themselves.
Yeah, very, very good. So, you know, remember in our live coaching sessions and in sales meeting, I'd say, turn to the person next to you. uh, you know, turn to the person next to you and say, what? I'm so
Everybody could look
impressed.
like this. We look like the Brady Bunch. Everyone just
Yeah, the Brady Bunch. I'm just so impressed with how you always put your clients first, you know? And that would be one of our affirmations. And it's all about that. So a little twist on this objection is, you could even say, we've thought about that as a firm. How about that? So here, Joe, you asked me the question that we've been debating today. Can you role play with me? Or are you in the middle?
Oh, I can role play, my friend.
Okay, watch. Okay, so you say that, and I'm going to change my pattern. Go ahead.
Well, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I know you've done real estate for your entire professional career. But here's the deal, man. The market is so hot right now. I'm just not sure that having an agent help me sell this house is actually necessary.
Yeah. I get you. You know what's so easy about this and why I'm smiling is I absolutely love Joe Lowry. It isn't hard. I've known him for so long. We're dear friends. It's so easy. And I would say, so here's how I would do this. I'd say, we've thought a lot about that too, Joe. I mean, as a firm, I think we debate this. I think as an industry, we debate this very principle. If we are really committed as an industry and as a firm at Berkshire Hathaway to helping our clients net the most, what if it were better to the bottom line if we did jettison out some of the fees? Now, we could do that. And frankly, if it worked, we would do it. And so why haven't we is the question. Can I show you some of the things that we've learned in this journey?
Yeah, let's take a look.
That's the question. May I show you a few things that we've learned? But okay, guys, was it heartfelt? Yes. Do I see the world like he sees it? Yes. That I think that is at the heart of all this. If that's the takeaway, is that the relationship matters more than anything. Have you ever heard the saying, do you want the relationship or do you want to be right? Look, everybody who's in a relationship understands this principle. Right? John's laughing.
Well, and people feel it, right? I mean, ultimately, you feel the authenticity. You feel the actual. Does somebody mean that, or are they playing me, right? Are they trying to manipulate me, or do they actually feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For those of you on the call that have a pretty consistent, I've got another tip down here. I didn't want to forget it, but it might be a little out of order. But if you have a consistent business that's giving you some cash flow, do yourself a huge favor and make sure you're saving money, especially right now when we're more than likely, most of our agents are going to have more income in the next 90 days than they've had in a very, very, very long time. Most of our agents, not all of our agents, but most of our agents. That helps you walk into situations with whatever they decide. Now, Angie knows this. I've got some very, very good dear friends who live 4-5 doors down from where I live. They're asking these very same questions. I can tell you without any hesitation, you guys, I only want what's best for them. Frankly, it doesn't matter personally what they decide to do. I can tell you this, though. If I flip that coin over, if those neighbors of mine will find a way to be with inside the Berkshire Hathaway family when they need real estate, I know that we can do a better job to help them. And I can't know that if they end up outside of our tent. And that I need to be passionate about showing them why and how that all works. Okay, let's hear from you. Look, guys, we're ending this call in 10 minutes, okay? So we're not going to go over, but let's hear from you, and maybe we could unmute. Anyone want to raise their hand and give maybe some additional insight to this? I basically got down what I wanted to share today with those tips. If you have any questions about how to dive into this, look, we went rep C on what the costs are. We pulled out those things. That was our running start. Then we went to the MLS and showed that there's 3% concession for these comparables that we want to use. And then we looked at an appraisal and said, look, these comps here, these 3 comps all had 3% BACs, okay, that we're comparing to. So that's some of the numbers. I pointed to the disclosure, the closing disclosure, to show bottom line, and that this is what we're after, right? Okay, so what about you? What has worked for you when you've got this kind of objection? And Todd is so right. I love that quote that people need to know you care way before they'll listen to you or listen to what you know. That's so very true. The human nature is, if we trust the source, then we're listening and we're following. If you can't trust the source, then you're questioning everything that comes out of their mouth. And frankly, a dishonest person, we've learned from our own experiences, is an extremely dangerous person, right? So we look for signs. We look for tonality and body language and eye contact. And then we look to back it up. I mean, were they really telling the truth? You know, and then is there any heart in it? I mean, do they say things like, you know, that it's not combat, like, watch your words. Sometimes people will say things like, well, you guys want this. No, we, team, not I, us, right? Not me at Berkshire Hathaway, us at Berkshire Hathaway. We as a firm, we are a team. They as a seller, that's divisive. Us together. When we list the property together, we will do this, right? Okay, what are your tips? I want to hear from you. Anyone want to raise your hand? My panel of brokers. Kevin Larson, you want to add anything? Craig, Lelis, you want to add anything? If you do, now's your chance. If not, any of the agents? Anybody? Come on, I'm daring you. Come on, you must have a little tip or spin on this.
I think Craig is somewhere else. Gina's got a comment.
You've nailed the points, Will. I mean, I'm not sure that we can improve on the great Wilster.
Well, thanks, Kev.
Okay, I'll jump into the lion pen.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
In doing real estate, it'll be 23 years at the end of the year. So, you know, I think, like you said, you're building a relationship and making them feel like you're part of the team. And so when I go in, I try to give them value, because at the end of the day, they want to know value because they think we plug a sign in the, you know, but you have to understand everybody has their own understanding of what their value is. And so I try to ask questions and to see what their value is, and then I address it. It's really simple. It's just having that conversation like you're sitting down with a dear friend, and you're understanding their problem, because a reduced commission, I call it commissionectomy, is a problem. It's just a problem, and all we have to do is to solve that problem. Thank you.
You guys agree? That's very well said. So Warren Buffett would say value is what you get and price is what you pay. I know that sounds so duh, but coming from a guy like that, you go, wait, he's onto something. You know, price is what you pay and value is what you get. And, you know, we get oversimplified. You know, there's just so much complexity to this business. Today was an emphasis on the behind the scenes stuff that no one ever talks about. I'm taking it for granted here and making a huge assumption that you're walking everybody through the marketing, the exposure, the syndication, the websites, how we track it, how we position the property, the way the packaging looks, the images, the photography, and what that means to an online shopper. So when Gina said value, I think, my goodness, the exposure to the buyer pool in that light is a huge value proposition. And it's really impossible for somebody to duplicate that. And I'm not even considering them as a FSBO. I'm considering that they're now looking for someone who will just charge them less and just get them on the MLS. Very good. Gina, your hesitation for that one moment, I'm so glad you broke through and said, and offered that, because it really made the class better, and I really appreciate it. Okay, who's next? Craig?
Will, I apologize. Kevin came in and we had to meet about something quickly. So I missed the last few minutes, but my thoughts, just a couple of thoughts. You know, a seller that needs to think about safety, security, convenience, and liability. And to me, liability is a big one. I think that, you know, knowing what I know and the experiences I've had, I would never for sale by owner my own house. I would list it with the brokerage and do everything by the book. There's a huge liability issue there, and I think people don't understand that. And then in a more normal market, if there is such a thing, in a more balanced, let's say in a more balanced market, one of the only ways to get the highest possible price is to reach the largest number of buyers in the shortest amount of time. And you can't do that with just the MLS. I know that there are brokerages out there saying that you can, but you can't. Syndication is huge. And so when our market settles down a little bit, I guess the other way to get the highest possible price is multiple offers. But in a more balanced market, syndication will become much more important. And in my opinion, it's still important now, but it'll become much more important and reaching that largest number of buyers.
Very well said. Craig, will you write those points down in the chat and we can all copy them? Would that be good for everybody? Nod? Yeah? Okay, very, very good. Okay, so write those down, Craig, and we'll write them into our notes. You know, when Craig says liability, boy, you guys, we see this all the time. The brokers, we joke about it that we work in the emergency room of real estate transactions, because all we see are the broken arms. I mean, we know that there's closings that happen that don't have broken arms, metaphorically, but we don't hear about them. We only hear about the ones that are really messed up. And boy, yeah, the liability is a big one. And I know we've got the safety issue out there. You know, we have to be able to vet people, you know, that just for safety reasons, it would be very harmful. I think today my mind was more on, maybe I'm a victim of my own repetitiveness. I'm looking behind some layers here of things we haven't talked about in the past. And I'm so glad that Craig brought up those fundamental points, because to me, that's kind of where we begin with the reasons to list with a professional. You know, and if we're guilty of anything, it's we skip over that. And so, Craig, thanks so much. I'm really glad you jumped back on, because that, again, makes this class a lot better. So go ahead. Are you writing those in the chat, Craig?
Yes, I'm getting it.
You getting it in? Okay, good. All right, so stay tuned for that. Anybody else want to weigh in? We've only got about 5 minutes or so. I do want to do some quick takeaways on what you hope to change or pivot. But anybody else want to weigh in on a tip for this kind of an objection? I can hear Craig typing.
I better mute, sorry.
Here comes the data. Yeah? No? Okay, safety, security, liability, convenience. Okay, since no one's weighing in, let me add a quick little story about my own family, and yes, my own family with it. So my biological father is an emergency room physician, hence all the metaphors that I get, and he lives up in Alaska. And he was selling a property down in Francis, and we referred it ultimately to one of our Berkshire Hathaway agents, and it closed about 2 weeks ago. Well, the house is like about $900,000, so we'll just round up the commissions. We're going to talk about $50,000 to $60,000 in commission. And my father says to me, you know, Redfin would list this thing for a flat fee, and I just did the math, and that would save me like $30,000. Now, this is my dad. It would save me $30,000. He says, so tell me, why in the world would I use, say, a traditional firm like Berkshire Hathaway? Because I don't know if I can afford that. Okay, now that's coming from my dad. I just imagine you're in that position. Okay, so here is how, first of all, my dad knows I love him. All right. Hopefully that's true for everybody. If someone's going, well, that's not going to work for me, I can't use that stuff. Okay. Let's not write that one down. But he knows I love him. But my next thing was that how can I speak to something my dad would understand? And it was like we were standing looking at an X-ray. And I saw the contrast. The technician was the discount broker who took the X-ray. And the Berkshire Hathaway agent was the physician who knew what it meant and what it said and the value in the property, right? Like water rights. Is it just water rights, or is there value? And how do we get the ownership of the water rights? And what am I looking at? So when the physician looks at now guys, the X-ray is a picture of the house. So imagine that. It's the picture of the house, metaphorically. And the listing agent can see that property and say, here's why it's worth $900,000. But the technician who just put it on the MLS, who's a transactionally based, incentivized person, right? Because that's the model, guys. That's the model. So they sell what they have. And the only thing they have to sell is to say we do it cheaper. Okay? And it's, to Gina's point, there's not the value there. Anyway, well, end result is he listed with the physician. He listed with Berkshire Hathaway. This is why I'm always pleading with all of us. It's me too, guys. Don't miss a morning that you don't study. Study, study, study. And pick whatever you want to study. Ask yourself what you want to learn that day and go learn something that betters who you are as a professional, because that at the end of the day is going to be the clear differentiator. It's why we are worth it. It's why it's worth $60,000, right? Play our part. We blend that, guys, with great franchise, right? A great franchise, a great ownership group, good leadership, fantastic staff, great teammates to network with who want what you want to be a great professional. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm forever grateful for it. Don't let it, don't miss a chance, right, to recognize what we have, because it's great. And we help a lot of buyers and sellers avoid those things that Craig talked about, and to make it more convenient and lower their liability. And this is why we exist as a firm, to do all those things and to help that bottom line. Okay. All right. I promised I would end on time. We've got 3 minutes left. I'm only looking for one more response out of you. I want you to pick just one thing today. So this call's about to end. We're going to go about the whirlwind of life. It's going to come at us. Pick one thing that you're going to try to do better or implement. And will you type it in the chat so I can have some kind of feedback? Go ahead and do that now. Just one simple kind of a takeaway that you're going to try to improve upon and that you'll remember from today. And that we can put some plans around to emphasize. One thing, just one thing. Thanks, Joe. We're going to play basketball. Yeah, play basketball. We're on the shoulder to shoulder. Very good. No tennis. Thanks, George. Be like Will. Jeez. Well, you're going to have to learn to play the stand-up bass for all those who were in sales meeting yesterday. Just so you know, you're going to have to join the country bands in Nashville if you're going to be like Will. Emphasize, be agreeable. These are great, you guys. Relationships matter. Yep, very good. Hear and listen to the client. Very, very good. Okay. Well, I commend you all. Turn to the person next to you and say, you were very wise for being here this morning. Angie, you're very wise to be here this morning, since you're the one next to me. Michael, so are you. Very wise to be here this morning. And I'll tell you again, guys, we've got a lot of good things going for us. Keep it up. you know, you can't do everything every day. So just prioritize the things that matter the most in those days. And a lot of times that's not business, right? But within the business world, there are things that do matter most. Keep that lead conversion going. If you get too overwhelmed right now because we're so fast paced, refer that lead. Don't let it go. Get in a habit. If you can't text back, email, say, got it. Text back, I hear you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Put it on the calendar tomorrow. I know we're going fast paced. Get those things referred if you're too overwhelmed. Not everybody can do everything, but everybody can do something, right? One of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes. And yes, this business is all about relationships, and objections can be handled with authenticity and sincerity, with a heartfelt communication style. If we do that, we're going to win more relationships and do more business the Berkshire Hathaway way. Okay? Have a great day, guys. I love you all. I pray for your success. Have a marvelous day, and we'll see you again next time.